This bill passes, we will not be looking at living in Short Hills anymore or advise any of our friends to do that. Enough has been said about the financial incentives, which I think are pretty much non-existent, medical issues. But I would like to ask you, why even consider it in the first place? What exactly is such a desperate need for Millburn Short Hills to have a dispensary? Answer I'm given is people need marijuana. People need so many things we all need. We don't have them right up at our doorstep today. What is so special about marijuana that we must have a dispensary in town? Parallel, reason to oppose this. A few years ago, we didn't used to have. When we moved in, on most indices, Short Hills stood with crime index of 4, when 100 or more was quite common. Today, it's not the same. Car theft is one of the biggest crimes. Why has it occurred? Because people in neighboring towns, wherever they come from, have come to know that a lot of residents in Short Hills, Millburn, leave their cars unlocked. They have valuables in cars. Parallel. Fast forward, marijuana dispensary in town. Everybody all around North Jersey and more will come to know, and they'll be flocking to town. The crime rate will go up. Once again, please consider, why do you have to have a dispensary in town, and have very good reasons for it? Thank you very much.
The committee will now consider consent agenda resolutions 20-061 through 20-068. Are there any comments from the public or the committee with respect to the consent agenda items?
I have a question. How did we come to the current sewer use charge? The proposed,
It's the same as last year.
it was the same as last year, so it hasn't gone up?
Correct.
Any other committee members have any questions about the consent agenda items?
No.
Any public have any questions about the consent agenda items? May I have a motion to approve Resolution 20-061 through Resolution 20-068?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Burstein?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Egler?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
Resolution 20-069. Establish procedure for prospective alternative treatment center for ATC satellite applications for locations within the Township of Millburn. The next item on the agenda is draft resolution 20-069 for discussion this evening, outlining a process which, if adopted, would govern the procedure whereby the Township Committee would review any submittals made by an entity proposing to locate a medical marijuana facility within the Township of Millburn. We have all received copies of the proposed draft prepared by our Township Attorney, which enumerates the 3 things which this entity must submit to the State Department of Health in order to gain a permit to locate such a facility within the municipality. These are written verification of the approval of the community or governing body of the municipality, evidence of compliance with local codes and ordinances, and evidence of community engagement or participation in the entity's operation. Before having Mr. Falcon describe the provisions of the resolution in detail as part of this discussion, it seems to me that a more fundamental question which we ought to be discussing in considering this resolution, namely whether or not, as a general proposition, this is the type of facility which the Township Committee would favor being located within Millburn Township. I know from my conversations with constituents that this is a controversial subject. It would make little sense to put a procedure in place if, in fact, a majority of this Township Committee is adverse to the location of a medical marijuana facility within the township under any circumstances. On the other hand, if location and operation of a medical marijuana facility within the township is something that this committee is amenable to considering, we can get the particulars of the proposed process. Addressing this threshold on the onset is setting the course that could be beneficial for all parties concerned. At this time, I'd like to invite my committee to give us the benefit of their thoughts on this position, to see if there is a majority consensus in how to proceed from here. I know that several of us have attended presentation on the benefits, both societal and municipal, from operations of such facilities. We've also become acquainted with the factors which suggest a contrary view. Would anyone like to weigh in at this juncture? We can start from left to right, or whoever wants to go first.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Richard.
This past Saturday, the mayor and I attended a household on Parsonage Hill Road where we sat with 30 families and discussed, and heard their concerns about this. Tonight, I think there was widespread concern from our residents about this. Personally, I'm very concerned when I come home at night. When I come off the highway and I'm on Morris Avenue going to Millburn Avenue, there's generally a backup as it is. Right now, there's a Wawa and a 24-hour gas station going in there. We have a shop right there. It's very, very busy as it is. I've been somebody that I've been advocating, for a police presence in the downtown. I'm very concerned about our aggressive driving in town. I really want our police and our resources focused on our town, on our residents. And if there is a influx of traffic, influx of outsiders, I see that our resources are going to be on Morris Avenue, Millburn Avenue, policing this. Our inspectors are going to have to inspect it. This is not something that I think our resources should be going towards. I don't think we have the resources to fulfill that type of obligation. And I've also been in touch with all the residents that are behind this proposed facility. They're very worried about their home values. I don't see how there is an advantage to this township to bring in a facility like this. I don't think at this point, I personally don't have anything against medical marijuana. I think it helps a lot of people, but I also think that there are places that are open within 15 or 20 minutes that people can get it if they need it. So with all due respect, people, it's available if they want it. I just don't think it's something that our township should have at this juncture.
Thank you.
So, first of all, thank you all for coming out and speaking, and to those who have sent emails, appreciate your input as well. We're all talking about it as though we're talking recreational, and I think that's fair because we all know that once recreational is permitted, what was a medical facility will now become a recreational facility. So I think we can presume that will happen. I look at, in addition to the eloquence that we heard from our community, Mr. Wasserman, I look at the message we're sending our children. The woman who spoke about MAC and the woman who and DARE. The message. What are we telling our kids and what are we telling our community? I feel very strongly this is a community that we should not have this facility. And I think though I will tell you that I was a little confused. I didn't think we were voting on something tonight. I thought from our last meeting that we were just going to be discussing how we felt about it, but killed two birds with one stone, so to speak.
Thank you. Tara?
I agree with Committeeman Wasserman and Committeewoman Burstein. I think a lot has been said in the room and I don't need to repeat it, and I'm not in favor of having this facility in our town.
When I brought this up at the last meeting, my intention was that we had been approached by a company who had not been getting a response from us. And I didn't think that was fair and a way to do business. Millburn has a reputation as non-business friendly, and I thought this should be brought to the attention of the Township Committee, to our attorney, and we needed to set up policies and guidelines. That's what we are tasked to do. We do make ordinances and we set up policies, and this firm didn't have guidelines. this is about medical marijuana. There are incredible uses for it. I have no economic interest in this. I hear what all of you are saying, but I will also tell you that I have been contacted by many other people offline because they don't want to put their name on thing and they don't have a problem with it. So maybe we should go back to what we thought about last year, is put this out to a referendum. As we know, people come out when they're against something, and maybe there are, this is like I said, when I backtrack to some people's chagrin on the complete streets, Janet, that I thought it was too much, too far, too fast, and we were not being prudent as government officials. 5 people who are elected making very big decisions that affect your neighborhood. I can't tell you if this is going to bring property values down or up. I can't tell you if this is going to bring crime up or down. I can't tell you if this is going to bring traffic in or out. I don't have that information. And as I wrote to somebody, just like the Trump impeachment and just like the zoo discussions, everyone has an opinion. And you have your great arguments on this side, and you have a great argument on this side. And everyone really feels they are right. This is as emotional as the Turtleback Zoo. And I believe that I don't have the answers. I believe that it is only prudent that we allow a business, if you want to put an addition on your home, if you want to bring a business into town, you should be allowed to come before an appropriate board. But to be ignored by the township and town hall is just not a way to run a town. It's not fair. It's not appropriate. And my purpose was, and I was very happy when I saw this at 6 o'clock on Friday, that we came up with some guidelines, thank you, Mr. Falcon. And then at 6 o'clock tonight, I find out that we were not going to be talking about it. So this is not my decision. This is, we have 21,000 residents, we have kids, everyone knows what's going on in the high school. I do not propose marijuana for young people. I am a proponent for medical marijuana when there are people who have a myriad of diseases. I'm not a doctor. I cannot judge if your friend has bipolar or if your friend's heart was broken. Who are we to judge that marijuana is not the answer for them? That's not fair. That's not right. We can't judge anybody why they need what they do. And I will tell you one last story, then I will be quiet. When I was on the first aid squad, we had a call. The car was coming down Ultra Hills Road, crashed in front of Suburban Paint Store. She went over a meter. I was talking to one of the cops about this. The first thing we wanted to do was check the patient and return the car off. And the cop said, stay away. We're like, why? What they do is they check for pedestrians underneath the car. Okay, this car was on the sidewalk and knocked down the meter maid. It was literally touching Suburban Paint. There was 2 people who were literally just skidded by. You know what was in her car? A bottle of Vicodin that she had, I don't know how many, and a bottle of hard liquor, like a hard Mike's, whatever. She had no idea where she was. Now, I know, and you all know, there are people right now driving on Vicodin, opiates, fentanyl patches. Another woman, I can tell you a lot of first aid squad stories, a woman on a fentanyl patch who drove into the cars. These things are happening. I do not believe, and I don't know if marijuana is a gateway drug. This is not reefer madness days. And I know people, you're all concerned about your home values in the schools. We all are. I grew up here. We love this town. I don't have the answers. And I think it is really blatantly unfair when a company comes to us and they're ignored by town hall. This was another company that came when I was mayor last year. And I'm not mayor. I'm a township committee person with my feelings, that we have to give businesses an open breath to come in here and say, I want to be heard before you, the township committee, planning board, board of adjustments. And if we can't give people, somebody wrote me a letter today, I don't know if it was a kid, I want red mango back in town. Okay, well, ask your parents to open up the store. We need people to open up businesses in downtown because everyone says, I want more businesses, but I don't want another nail salon. What do we want? We want to revitalize this town. Tara put out, we're going to have our planner talk. I believe he's somewhere in the audience. We need to start being open because Millburn, other towns around us are doing exciting things. We're not. So if it's medical marijuana, let's open this town up to new ideas, Let's get excited. Let's stop saying no, no, no. And that's what I'm gonna say. Thank you.
No, not at this time.
Let's take a roll call.
My thought on this is that we should not entertain submittals from entities proposing the establishment of a medical marijuana facility or any other type of dispensing or any other kind of medical marijuana facility within Millburn Township. My primary concern is over the unknown and unanticipated negative impacts on our township which may arise from such a facility. This is a newly authorized activity by the state of New Jersey, but one which has been made wisely subject to municipalities' approval. I believe that there ought to be a demonstrated experience on the part of municipalities in New Jersey which allow such facilities, showing the positive or at least benign effect wherever these are located. Furthermore, we are commencing and reactivating an energetic process for evaluating potential measures to upgrade and revitalize our downtown business districts. In order to upgrade its status as a destination of those seeking quality services, retail products, dining, and cultural experiences, I would not want to see a potentially discordant note into the process. I know the financial revenue or argument of the 2% tax is also mentioned as an incentive. That would go away in 2 years. Based upon the comments of this committee and the members, I believe that we should move forward in the consideration, based upon the comments of the members of the Township Committee, it is apparent to me that there is no point in adopting a procedure for the consideration of submittals pertaining to the introduction of medical marijuana facilities in Millburn Township. Mr. Falcon, what alternatives do we have at this point?
Well, if I can count heads, which I think I can, what we had been asked to do, as has been mentioned, is to prepare a process. It had been recommended from several locations that if you're going to entertain such submittals, you really ought to set up a process for doing so. But from what I hear, I think that one thing that you could do, because I think you ought to make a record on this, I would suggest that the chair would entertain a motion to withdraw your further discussion and consideration of this resolution on grounds that there's no real sense in adopting a procedure for the consideration of such submittals if it is your policy that you're not going to entertain submittals for projected medical marijuana dispensary. So a motion along those lines, you need not move on to my telling you what's in this resolution, or you're acting on it. If you want to move to withdraw further discussion, you can do that.
Okay. Is there a motion to withdraw further discussion and consideration of Resolution 20-069 on the grounds that there is no need for the process set forth in the draft resolution, since the Township Committee does not intend to accept or consider submittals for the location and operation of medical marijuana facilities of any type within Millburn Township?
Yes.
So moved.
Mayor, can I make that motion?
May I have a second?
Second.
Who was second?
I was second.
Okay. Ms. Gaddy, can we please have a roll call?
Ms. Burstein?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Thaliglo?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
I know. It's I'm up.
Okay.
All right.
Ordinance 2550-20. Ms. Prupus is scheduled to sponsor this ordinance.
I would like to present an ordinance entitled 2550-20, amending and supplementing Chapter 7 Traffic, Section 729, speed limits of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Millburn. this ordinance revision is to establish reducing the speed limit on Millburn Avenue between Short Hills Avenue and Morris Turnpike from 35 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. We got a second.
Second.
Great. All in favor? Sorry,
Wait,
Jackie. Roll call.
All right.
Oh wait, I move this ordinance.
Second.
There we go. I move this ordinance to be taken up and passed on first reading, that the township clerk be authorized to have the ordinance published in accordance with law in the item and for hearing and final passage on Tuesday, March 7th, 2020.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Bursty?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Egler?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
One quick question. Will we get signs put up there?
Whenever it's passed
Yep.
on second reading
Yep.
and then adopted by the county board of chosen free voters, the county will then put up signs.
So probably around like April.
I would say that
You're
that was
52.
fair, probably toward the end of April.
Toward the end of April, we'll have speed signs. Woohoo! All right.
Does any committee member have an item of old business to address? I do.
Yes.
Okay,
No.
go ahead. Would you like to go first?
Well, last year, was it, we talked about, the ordinances for short-term rentals?
Yes, I was gonna mention that in my, yeah,
Oh,
Okay.
so I think it's something we should revisit.
great. So we can talk about that right now. I'd like to bring back before the committee the consideration of regulating short-term rentals in Millburn Township. As you know, this committee reviewed the committee rather, reviewed this matter in the past. And tonight I'd like to gather consensus from the committee to task a subcommittee to review possible legislation to bring back before the committee for consideration. Our goal is regulating short-term rentals would be to address our residential concerns about safety, maintaining the integrity of our neighborhoods, as well as being mindful of the rights of our community members who want to participate in this business. I'd like to make a motion to create a subcommittee consisting of Committeewoman Burstein, myself, and Christopher Falcon, in order to conduct a proper review of the options and draft regulations for short-term rentals. Once our review is complete, we will bring our recommendations back to the Township Committee for discussion and consideration. And I would like somebody to second my...
Second.
Second, great. Can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Bursty?
Yes.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Egler?
Yes.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lieberberg?
Yes.
Thank you.
And the other thing I'd like to mention under old business, at our last meeting, we had discussed bids and SIDS for Millburn. I've asked our business administrator to begin to assemble some preliminary documentation regarding communities that have thriving organizations already in place, Cranford, Westfield, South Orange, and how they are structured and funded. Please note that we have an ordinance in place that is still on the books. We will look at these other towns, municipalities, how they are achieving some of their goals, and what kind of structure regarding tax assessments and other contributors that would work best for Millburn to satisfy the aspirations of all our stakeholders.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
I think this is actually a very good idea, but I think that we also have to guard against what took place here for 18 years with a dysfunctional DMDA at the time. When I got involved in coming to these meetings, it was my I guess it seemed to me that there was a lot of money spent. There was not a lot of accounting. And while it's a great idea for some townships, and on paper it sounds great, I'm very concerned that that the same thing will happen, where lots of money is spent on this. I think Millburn at the end was spending $225,000 a year. I don't think a lot was accomplished, and I speak now as a resident. I'm very concerned about redoing the same thing without any safeguards. So it sounds great on paper, but we have to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
Agreed. Anybody else under old business have any comments from the committee? New business. Downtown Vision Plan and Subcommittee discussion. There's been some interest in addressing the needs for a Downtown Vision Plan Subcommittee. Tonight we have our planner, Paul Phillips, here, who's been working with Deputy Mayor Tara Prupus on this initiative. And at this time, I'd like to ask Deputy Mayor Prupus to provide a little bit more detail on the subject, along with our planner, Paul Phillips.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So for a long time now, we've been talking about the downtown, and we went through, I mean, it seems like for the past 20 years, we've been talking about the downtown. And 20 years ago, the DMDA, it kind of is, I'm kind of amazed at how all of our conversations are kind of tying in together, which is, I think, is a good thing, because I think that means that we all want to focus our energies towards creating a viable, vibrant downtown where we have a low vacancy rate and people are coming to enjoy the downtown, and it's added into our proximity to New York City and the greatness of our schools to even make this community even stronger. So 20 years ago, the DMDA did a downtown master plan. And then subsequently, and Paul's going to talk a little bit more about this, many plans were done. Because of different political reasons or financial reasons, things never kind of took off. But the bones of what we've been talking about for 20 years, it's still the same. And I'd like to start this conversation again. And I think that it would be great to have a set of new eyes with a like a project-specific planner. So we've been working on an RFP to go out to get a planner. And this process has also included people from the planning board, some residents, the business administrator, different committee people. So we've done a lot of work in the last, I'd say, 2 months. And we've arrived at a really great RFP that's going to go out. And Paul, you ready? Ready. You're up.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all again. I know Tara started to talk about the history, and I know it's late, but I think it's worthwhile for me to spend 5 minutes talking a little bit about the history of the downtown vision efforts dating back now 20 years, only because you're going to see some repetitive themes come up. And basically, for the most part, there really hasn't been any action that has been taken on any of these studies, including the redevelopment efforts that I was personally involved in. But nevertheless, as Tara mentioned, I think they do provide a foundation moving forward with whoever is ultimately selected to basically prepare the vision plan on behalf of the township. So I'll try and be quick, but I think it's worth it for the township committee and the public to hear this. So the original effort was actually undertaken by the DMDA 20 years ago. They essentially hired a consulting firm. It was actually a team of consultants to do a downtown plan. And basically, they came up with a number of recommendations. Among the most important of them were relocate the town hall, which we've heard before and we'll hear again. In that plan, they were basically saying that it should be relocated across Essex Street, adjacent to the police and fire. They indicated that, recommended a new parking deck, which is one thing that was done in the intervening period. And they also, and you've heard this before, recommended relocation of the public works facility. And again, you're going to hear these things. In 2005, Fidelco, which is a New Jersey-based real estate developer, basically retained a design firm to also do a downtown study, and they offered a series of recommendations, and the key takeaways were consolidation of municipal facilities, relocation of the public works facility, and addition of parking, including structured parking. And again, basically what has been done since then was the structured parking deck near the train station. They also indicated, and this is back in 2005, so this is 15 years ago, they also were advocating the construction downtown of several hundred units, multifamily residential units, which was not the case in the 2000 study, where the focus was more on expanding retail, and it was certainly before we got to the challenges we're now facing in the retail environment. Subsequent to the Fidelco study, the Township Committee authorized the Planning Board in 2006 to undertake an area in need of redevelopment study consistent with the state enabling statute. And the focus was on a number of properties in the downtown, mostly concentrated on either side of Essex Street, basically from Douglas all the way to Lackawanna. And the bulk of the properties within that redevelopment area were municipally owned properties and included what were parking lots, and to some extent they still exist, at the town hall, the police and fire, and the public works facility. They make up the predominant properties that were within that redevelopment area. Actually, my firm undertook the study, indicated that those properties qualified. The planning board made a recommendation to the governing body, and the governing body affirmably and formally said these properties qualify for redevelopment area status. Subsequent to that, in 2007, the township selected a team of consultants to prepare the redevelopment plan for the redevelopment area. And important to realize that that plan was solely for the properties that were in the redevelopment plan, where the other two studies were more of the full downtown area. And again, they made a series of recommendations. And again, the common themes: relocate town hall, additional structured parking, this calling for a mix of new retail and residential units. That plan also contemplated that a redeveloper ultimately would be selected. There'd be a redevelopment agreement between the selected redeveloper and the township. However, as I think most people in this room are aware, the Township Committee chose not to formally adopt that redevelopment plan. And that was back in 2007. So for the past, I guess it's now 12 or 13 years, there have been no sort of formal revitalization, redevelopment, visioning efforts that have been undertaken by the township for the downtown, other than obviously the efforts with regard to the complete streets construction, which was focused on downtown. And the other thing, as you well know, because you adopted it in 2019, we did basically adopt zoning amendments to the B4 zone, basically geared towards expanding the list of permitted uses, understanding again the challenges with retail, as well as to increase the height from 2 to 3 stories. Importantly, the redevelopment designation continues to exist. It's never been rescinded in all these 13 or 14 years. It's still in place, and it still provides an opportunity for which the township, if it so chooses, can proceed again with a redevelopment plan that focuses on those properties that are within that designated area. Also, as Tara mentioned, with regard to current efforts over the past several weeks or month or so, I know Alex and the administration have been working on drafting an RFP to go out for a consultant to prepare a downtown vision plan. I've been asked recently to comment and provide my input on that, which I have done. As most of you also know, and certainly Cheryl and Diane know it because they were on the planning board in 2018, this was one of the recommendations in our 2018 Master Plan Reexamination Report, which a good deal of that master plan was focused on the downtown, and one of the recommendations was to seriously consider moving forward with a full downtown vision plan, which it appears is the direction that the Township Committee is now headed. The intent would be obviously to hire a consultant. It's more than likely going to be a team of professionals rather than one consultant, because the scope as drafted by Alex covers everything from land use and zoning, design and aesthetics, parking, traffic and circulation, visual and historic resources, and certainly retail marketing strategies, which I think personally is very important, again, given the challenges that not just Millburn, but downtowns throughout New Jersey are facing in this particular environment. There would obviously be public engagement with stakeholders as well as the public at large. The other key aspect that we talked about that we think should be in the vision plan is for a consultant to, again, advance recommendations regarding the properties within the redevelopment area. And especially the municipally owned sites, which, as you've heard from all these other studies, could be either consolidated, replaced, relocated, or some combination of the above as part of sort of a comprehensive redevelopment scheme. So that is something also the consultant would be asked to do. And the recommendations for the redevelopment area can then serve as a basis for the township to move forward specifically with that area in preparing a redevelopment plan, again, consistent with the enabling statute which provides for same. So I think that gives you a summary of where we've been, what the policy directive has been from the planning board, and also where the township committee is apparently now headed in proceeding with this downtown plan, which I will just say personally my 2 cents, because you know I assisted with the master plan. I think it's a wonderful idea in this environment, and I think it's somewhat, I can't remember who mentioned it, maybe it was you, Diane, but other communities in Essex County and beyond are doing the same thing, recognizing again that the challenges with everything from vacancies to reinventing yourself as a downtown district. So,
Well said.
thank you.
Thank you.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
What kind of like time frame? Like, I haven't seen the RFP you drew up, Alex. Like, are we? I mean, because this is now 19 years. I don't know,
Yeah.
12 years, whatever. Like,
I
what
can
can we
an-
realistic?
I can answer that for you, for the.
Can I finish
Oh,
talking?
yeah, sorry, I thought you were done. Go for it.
What kind of time frame are we realistically talking about from the time the RFP goes out, and so we can realistically think about? And I don't mean shovel in the ground, but we're not going to talk for 10 years, 9 years, 8 years. Okay, Tara, you may answer my question.
Are you done?
If you want to answer, please go ahead.
Do you want Paul to answer it?
Yes, I think I would prefer.
Okay.
So ultimately, we want to be aggressive with this for, I think, the reasons that you're articulating, Diane. So in the RFP, we were thinking of basically saying that we'd like to see the study completed within a 6-month time frame. That's fairly aggressive, if not very aggressive,
Okay.
based on studies of this magnitude and the intended scope of work. But I think in the end, you'll see what the responses are in terms of whether the consultants feel that they can do what needs to be done within that time frame. And obviously, everything in the end is negotiable, including, you know, whatever the fee might be. And you'll get a sense of that also in response. I think one of the critical things with regard to the study itself, again, relates to the redevelopment area, which involves the municipal properties, which gets complicated and gets to a potential deal with a redeveloper with some of these things about consolidation and so forth. And I know we want to move forward with that, given all the recommendations that are recurring themes and nothing's been done. So at least from my perspective, I would like to get to the redevelopment phase, you know, beyond the overall vision, which I'm not saying is unimportant, because I think it is important. But I think one of the linchpins here is to move forward with redevelopment. So I think, again, once that study's completed, I would, you know, recommend that the township committee, you know, move forward with that aspect, that next phase. In addition to other implementation strategies that the consulting team will come up with, and they'll probably start with, you know, you moving forward with some low-hanging fruit to kind of get the process rolling, which you can immediately start with that kind of implementation.
Great, sounds great.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So we heard a very eloquent proposal from Maurice, before about our traffic situation, about tweaking, to make our traffic more efficient. Do you have an opinion as to whether that should be incorporated into, you know, a revisioning, or I mean, this may go to both of you.
Yeah.
Is it smarter money to say, you know, should we look at traffic as more holistically, from revisioning, is this what we want to do? Or do we want to make the traffic, will that help no matter what, if we let our new professional, tweak what was done to make traffic better, synchronize the lights, open up, some of the bump outs?
So I certainly know Maurice, we've worked together in the past, and I kind of caught some of his presentation when I arrived here. I think some of it, certainly there's overlap in terms of, what we would be proposing a consultant to do in terms of downtown, looking at downtown traffic and circulation. I don't know the sort of geographic scope of what Maurice may be doing, how far beyond it goes, from the downtown area. But certainly what I saw up on the PowerPoint, it seems that there is some area of overlap between what I would perceive a consultant would be looking at in terms of the downtown and the scope that Maurice is talking about, but that obviously can be worked out. I apologize, I don't know the full scope of the study.
We can share that with you.
Thank you. And if Maurice has any input, because he knows more about what the scope of his study might be, that he's welcome to speak as well.
I would love it if you guys could talk
Yep.
a little bit and give us some feedback,
Yeah.
because we want to make sure that we spend our resources,
And
efficiently.
I fully would agree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to create a subcommittee consisting of Deputy Mayor Prupus, Committeeman Wasserman, Business Administrator Alex McDonald, Township Planner Paul Phillips, and Township Attorney Joe Marziti, in order to review options and provide recommendations to be considered by the Township Committee regarding a downtown vision plan. Once the review is complete, they will present their recommendations to the Township Committee for discussion and consideration. May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Burstein?
Sure.
Ms. Prupus?
Yes.
Ms. Flagler?
Sure.
Mr. Wasserman?
Yes.
Mayor Lisa?
Yes.
Thank you.
May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion.
May I have a second?
Second.
This meeting is adjourned.